Well, I'm on the farm here today, and I've been just kind of piddling around. This is one of these days where I put in a lot of time, but I don't get a lot of work done. And thought I'd talk a little bit about my round baler and why I picked a John Deere baler and not a Vermeer. So if you're new to the channel, we just brought this John Deere 335 onto the farm. I had bought it and finally had it hauled down with my Massey 1105. And but in my search for a round baler, we were looking. We wanted to make a 4x4 bale, and we wanted it to be string tie. We surveyed our horse hay customers, and they wanted a string tie bale. They did not want net wrap, and they wanted 4x4. But we were interested in a 4x4 or 4x5 baler. But in in these parts of Virginia, where I'm at, there's just a bazillion round bales, and they go pretty cheap. So I wanted to kind of get into the round bale hay business, if you will, and we wanted to do it on the cheap, and see if we could develop a market, and then go from there as far as the quality of the baler goes. And I really didn't see any New Holland balers that I was interested in. I was interested in a Krone baler with it's a fixed chamber baler with the bars instead of the belts. And so it came down to a John Deere or a Vermeer. And it really came down to this baler and a Vermeer 554 XL. And that baler made a 4-foot wide round bale by 5.5 foot tall. You could adjust it down to 4 foot, and it was a newer baler than this one, even though it was old. And what I'm going to do here with this video is I'm going to talk about both balers and why we wound up with the John Deere instead of the Vermeer. And some of the Vermeer, when I get to it, I'll be doing kind of a voiceover. I've got some pictures of that baler, and I'll sprinkle them in here with this John Deere. The Vermeer that I looked at, like I said, it was a model 554 XL, and Vermeer, their balers, you know, they're designated by letters, and so there was a series C, you know, I, and L, and then there was an XL, and then I think where Vermeer really hit a home run was with their M series baler. Everybody likes the M series, it seems like. I think they were heavier built, but the Vermeer is a little bit different than the John Deere, particularly the way it feeds hay into the baler. The John Deere has a starter roller, and I actually know more about the Vermeer than I do the John Deere, because I looked at that thing on a dealer lot, it seemed like for months before it sold. But right there's the starter roller on this John Deere baler, and you can see some bar stock welded to the starter roller. And somebody said I should do that on this baler in a comment on a previous video, but it's already there. And when I look at the parts book for this baler, that's the way it came from the factory. But the Vermeer, instead of having a starter roller, it relies on the pickup teeth to push the hay into the bale chamber. And those pickup teeth on the Vermeer they're mounted on rubber, and the rubber can get soft, and they're much more substantial than these pickup teeth. And what happens is those pickup teeth on the Vermeer become short over time, and then the rubber loses its stiffness, and they don't push the hay into the bale chamber quite as effectively, and you'll plug the baler. And I have not experienced baling with a round baler yet, but from what I can tell, when you plug one of these round balers, it is a colossal pain to get unplugged, and Vermeers are no exception. But so with the Vermeer and the John Deere, first of all, this is not a bash Vermeer video, and I like Vermeer, and I would buy one. I like their hay equipment, and I've got a hay tedder, a rake tedder combo that I bought from a Vermeer dealer within striking distance of this farm. But in any event, the reviews on this John Deere 335, everything I read online, I just, like 98% of everything I read was just overwhelmingly positive. These balers make a really, really tight bale, and they're just ultra simple and ultra reliable. If you wanted to ding this baler, it's hydraulic ties, so you need 2 remotes, and this thing actually came with the Fosse valve, because my John Deere only has 1 remote. This tractor has 2. The Vermeer that I looked at was electric tie, so it only required 1 remote. The other thing about this John Deere that people kind of ding it on is there's no monitor, so you have to manually cycle the hydraulic tie in order to put string on the bale. And you know, I had one guy tell me he didn't feel like that was a big deal, because even if he hit a button on a monitor, he'd still be looking back to see what was what was going on with that baler. But the Vermeer I looked at had an AccuTie monitor, which is pretty basic monitor. But nonetheless, when the baler was full, you could hit a button and it would automatically tie the bale. This one didn't have that. And the Vermeer would make a bigger bale. Maybe later on, if we wanted to make a 4x5 bale, we could do it. We're stuck with 4x4 on this one. But like I say, we want to get into this haying 4x4 for the horse hay customers, and we want to kind of do it, on the cheap. The Vermeer, aside from the way the pickup works, and it had that people complain about that. The Vermeer I looked at had a wide pickup on it. It was a later model. It was a later model Vermeer, and X554XL, and it had a pickup that, it came out, if this one stops right here, the one on the Vermeer came all the way out to the side. What it didn't have was an auger to push the hay in, so I'm not sure how effective that wide pickup was, because it just seems to me, if you're just picking up hay and there's no mechanism to send it, over into the throat of the baler, I'm not sure how effective that is. And some people commented on the Vermeer that they preferred the standard width pickup with gathering wheels, and I'd sure like to have a set of gathering wheels for this baler. and might do that someday. So I considered that wide pickup nonetheless a plus, and they were about ready to transition into the M series baler, and I think that that wide pickup was similar or the same that was used on the M. So I considered that a plus for the Vermeer. So in some ways, the Vermeer was a better pointed baler than this one. But, you know, when I read the reviews on that Vermeer that I was looking at, they were mixed. Now, this baler right here has, I hope you can see it, it's got 6 belts. And the Vermeer had 4 belts. It had one belt that was as wide as these two put together, and one belt over here that was as wide as these two, and then it had 2 belts in the center. And the Vermeer belts in the center were twisted, and supposedly the reason for that was to let chaff out of the front of the baler, but also to allow you to see the bale in the bale chamber. You know, if that would be, I guess if that would be of help. And so what I read on the Vermeer was that on that 554 XL that some people had a lot of trouble with the belts flipping when they weren't supposed to. So maybe this belt over here would flip in the middle of trying to get a bale going. But the other thing I read, in all fairness to the Vermeer, was that if that Vermeer was maintained correctly and set up correctly, if the pickup tines were in good shape, and the belts were in good shape, and everything was as it should be, that they were just a complete hay-eating machine. And so there was a lot of potential on the upside on the Vermeer, and I actually really liked the baler. The Vermeer, one thing it had that this one didn't, it had a bale ramp coming off of the back. And this baler does not. And I wish it did, because, you know, we're out on these, nothing's level out here, so it would be kind of handy for the bale to roll out and not be able to roll back into the baler. The Vermeer, the XL series of Vermeers, I believe, were the first Vermeers that you could dump the bale and not have to turn off the PTO to, you know, to the belts. And I felt like while that wasn't a deal killer, if it didn't have it, for any baler that I looked at, you know, it's just seems to me that if you can leave the PTO on, then that's a better deal. Now, some people on these John Deeres, this 335 and the 375, they'll turn the PTO off when they dump a bale. It's my understanding that that's not necessary. That on the 330, John Deere recommended that you did, but on this one, it's okay to run the belts when you dump the hay. In fact, I'm told that if you got the belts running, when the tailgate closes, it will not pinch the belts, and then chaff and things like that will get thrown out of the back. It's kind of clearing out the baler, if you will. And some of these older tractors, you know, this idea of flipping that PTO on and off and on and off and on and off, it just doesn't seem like a good idea to me from a reliability and wear and tear standpoint. So when I use this baler, I'm not turning the belts off, turning the PTO off. I'm going to dump it with them running, and I consider that a plus. And the Vermeer was definitely made to do that. As you see in the pictures, the paint on the Vermeer was it was in really good shape. Uh, when I looked inside the Vermeer, the paint was missing where it needed to be missing, but it wasn't overly worn. I'm not sure why the guy traded it in, but the dealer told me that he was buying the last baler he was ever going to buy. I don't know if the guy was retired or getting close to retirement, but he bought a brand new Vermeer, and that was the trade-in on it. And so I was very much interested in that Vermeer baler, and like I said, there wasn't a lot of, as far as I could tell, it was original paint. The baler did have, it had been pressure washed, whereas this one, it was just kept in the dry. There was nothing pressure washed about it, which I like. I want to see when I buy a piece of equipment what it looks like as it came out of the field. But the price on the Vermeer was higher, and considerably higher than this baler, and so the Vermeer needed, I felt like probably two things needed to be done to the Vermeer. One of them was the pickup teeth probably needed to be replaced. The second one was I felt like the belts on the Vermeer probably needed to be replaced too. And they didn't even look factory, like factory belts on the Vermeer. So somewhere along the way they had been replaced. But my thought was if I bought it, I would replace all of the pickup teeth and certainly the belts. And because, as I mentioned, that the Vermeer is when they're set up right and they're maintained, they'll eat hay as good or better than any baler on the market. So I would have done that, but that would have added even more cost to the price of the baler. Now, one thing about the Vermeer, it seemed like it was still a heavy-duty machine, even though the M's, I think, were even more heavy-duty. Vermeer changes their balers as they go along. They seem to upgrade and make improvements to them. This John Deere, I'm not sure how different the newer balers are, but it seemed like from what I read that John Deere got it right on this baler, on these series balers. There was some question about how tight the Vermeer would make a round bale of hay. There's no argument that the John Deere makes a super tight round bale of hay. It's just like a rock when they come out of the back of this baler. And so the price difference between the Vermeer and this baler was I want to say significant, but it wasn't like crazy. But when you took that price difference and you added belts and new pickup teeth, then the price of the baler became even more onerous. And I'm pondering whether or not to change the belts on this baler. There's certainly some wear on them. We're definitely going to relace and we got to go through the pickup teeth on this. I should think the pickup teeth on this baler would be less costly than the Vermeer, just because they're not a real heavy duty pickup tines, and in some special rubber mounted arrangements. So I think from that standpoint, whatever maintenance we do on this thing will probably be minimal in cost, unless we choose to redo the belts. And like I say, I'll probably pull these belts off, and we'll probably relace them, and we'll also check the length of the belt if they need to be. Evidently these belts stretch. Probably all round balers, the belts stretch, so we would pull those out and measure them and cut them if we needed to. The Vermeer, I did not trust the belts on it. I felt like they needed to be replaced, and that was just all there was to it. So that was kind of the deal there. And so the last thing about the Vermeer, it was sitting on a dealer's lot, and I realize there's good deals to be had from a dealer on used equipment, and sometimes people just trade them in because they're upgrading and whatnot. And I have no reason to believe that was the story on that Vermeer. And the dealer where it was at, I feel they're honest as the day's long, and a dependable dealer. But the fact is, the owner was apparently decided he wanted a new baler, and maybe that's just because he had the money to buy it. But oftentimes things get traded in at different dealers, and there's a reason they're sitting on the lot, and that's because they're not in very good shape. There's something going on with them that caused the owner to finally throw in the towel and buy something else. This baler right here, is a friend of mine owned it, and his family, they were getting out of haying. They weren't going to hay anymore, make square or round bales, and so they were busy selling all their equipment. And this was like, it might have been the last piece of equipment that they had for sale. And so I knew he was selling it, and I knew the price of the Vermeer, and so I thought, well, I like the idea of having a monitor like the Vermeer had. I like the idea of having essentially a 4x5 baler that I could dial down to 4x4 or make a bigger bale later on if I wanted. There were many reasons to choose the Vermeer, but I wanted to reach out to this fella and get a price from him, and have him tell me what was good and bad about this baler. And we came to a price, and I thought this is probably the better buy than that particular Vermeer. Like I said, the reviews on those XL balers, the 554, are mixed. People seem to love them, and other people seem to hate them. They have problems sometimes starting a bale. I think that probably has more to do with operator maintenance than the design of the baler. Sometimes the belts are bad about flipping, and they'll just be problematic like that. I don't read anything on the John Deere about having trouble starting bales. I don't read anything about belts flipping on the John Deere. The Vermeer baler, sometimes people would complain that the bales weren't as densely packed tight as they could be. I'm not sure what the story is, the backstory is on those kind of comments. Again, it may be somebody who doesn't know how to use a round baler. I feel Vermeer makes a good product. And by the way, I called Vermeer and gave them the serial number, and they told me what year, and they emailed me within an hour the parts list and the owner's manual. I don't think they sent me a service manual, but I was able to read all that stuff, and Vermeer's really good about that. And So the Vermeer, like I said, the reviews were somewhat mixed, and the John Deere, the reviews, I'd say 98% of the reviews, people talk about this 335. They're just off the chart, really good. And it seemed like when people get rid of their 335, they're moving to a 4x5 baler. They want something with a mega wide pickup. They want net wrap instead of string tie. And of course, all your balers now come with a monitor. So they're just kind of moving into the present century, if you will. But for getting us started into doing round bales, I think this John Deere was probably the right choice. We'll see. But that's why I did not buy what I've just talked about in this video, is why I bought the John Deere and why I did not buy the Vermeer. And again, I got nothing against Vermeer. I would buy a Vermeer round baler any day. I think they make a great baler, and I think set up and operated properly, they'll go toe to toe with anybody's baler, and including John Deere. And but this was the right baler in the right condition, the right circumstances for which it was being sold. You know, it was not some piece of junk that somebody was trying to get off their farm so they could buy something else. They were just getting out of the haying business and turning their attention to other things. And so shed kept. We're going to try to keep it that way. And I got my fingers crossed that this will be a decent baler. It's older than the Vermeer, but overall it seems to be in pretty good shape. The Vermeer looked great, as you can see in the pictures that I've put in this video. So anyway, that's kind of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. John Deere versus Vermeer, and on this particular baler, why I bought the 335 John Deere instead of Vermeer 554 XL. So we'll talk to you later.